Gone are those days where if you are a good student, your only option left you with was medicine or engineering. Now I think the trend is more towards commerce. Indian CA is a tough exam and you need a very methodical strategic planning and preparation for cracking this examination. It is possible to become a chartered accountant at the age of 21.
Hi, good morning. So this is a discussion series to discuss about the most sought after and well debated course in commerce and finance, Chartered Accountancy. Today we have Mr. Joyal George, who have been a chartered accountant for the past 12 years to discuss on this series. Welcome, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Jazeera.
So what is this Chartered Accountancy or CA? Many might have heard about this, but they might not be knowing the details. Can you put some light on it?
Okay, so this is one of the most commonly asked questions by many of the students who are aspiring to become a chartered accountant or their parents. Now, to explain the role of a chartered accountant, I can give you a small example.
Okay.
Now, you may be knowing that in our country, there are many business entities, either as a company or as a partnership firm or whatever be the form. Now, these businesses, when they do business, they have to record the business details or financial transactions in the form of various statements. Okay, and at the end of each period, maybe an year or maybe a half year, whatever be the period they choose, they will come out with the result which we call as the profit or loss statement or their assets and liabilities position. Okay, so technically the summary of their operations which is presented in the form of these statements is known as financial statements.
Okay.
Now, when a company or a business entity presents their financial statements, this financial statements is relied by many stakeholders, whether it is tax authorities or governments or banks or investors or even public. Okay, so when a document which is prepared by an entity is relied by an outsider, there has to be a credibility factor which is to be brought into that.
Okay.
Now, that is where the role of chartered accountants comes in. A chartered accountant is an accounting or a finance professional who independently review these financial statements presented by the companies or corporates. And they say that, yes, this financial statements is more or less correct.
Alright.
Okay, and we call it as true and fairness. Okay, so a chartered accountant is a professional who certify the financial statements presented by an entity so that it gets a credibility before the stakeholders. Okay, so that's only a portion of what a chartered accountant does. Why I told about this? Because when we hear about the term chartered accountant, commonly we relate with the term auditor. Okay, so what I told is what an auditor does. They audit the financial statements.
Alright.
Now, in addition to this, there are many other aspects which is being done by or many other areas which is being handled by a chartered accountant. Like you can call about corporate tax, corporate finance, then any taxation matter, then consultancy areas, many other areas. Okay, so to cut it short, a chartered accountant is a finance, accounting, tax expert
Alright.
who does audit or who handles your corporate finance or advises you on your tax or gives you some business advices. So he is an all-rounder. I hope that clarifies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a CA is not an accountant, not merely an accountant, right?
Yes.
It's much more than that.
Yes.
All right.
So that is the common conception. When we call as chartered accountant, people think that CA means accountant.
Yes.
Of course, he is an accountant because that is the core area what he handles. But that is only a minuscule of what he does. He does lot more other things like auditing, then taxation works, corporate law, business law, advisory, and many other things also.
And I have also heard about Indian CA, CMA, and ACA. So what's the difference between all these?
Okay, so you have asked about Indian CA, then ACCA, then CMA. Now, all these three things, they are experts in finance and also to some extent in accounting. But there are various differences in their what they do or their roles and responsibility. Now, when we compare CA and CMA, as I already told you, CA is someone who is a specialist in finance and accounting and also taxation. But when it comes to CMA, Chartered Management Accountant or Certified Management Accountant, okay, he is an expert in management accounting, or we call it as costing.
Okay.
So even though a CMA knows tax, accounting, then finance, his specialized area is costing.
Okay.
He works out in bigger corporates or manufacturing entities. He works out what is the cost of a product. Suppose there is a company, that company wants to sell a particular product. There should be a professional who works out what is the cost that the company will incur to manufacture that, and at what rate, at what price the company have to sell it. All these decisions will be taken by the CMA or Chartered Management Accountant. Okay, so I would say in comparison with CA and CMA, the scope of CMA is little restricted, whereas a CA is kind of an all-rounder. Now, when it comes to an ACCA, ACCA is altogether a different scenario. We will have to deliberate in detail in that. But nutshell, I can tell you, ACCA is also a finance professional, and mainly it is a professional qualification awarded by an association which is founded in UK. Okay, so it is a qualification, a professional qualification which started in UK, and later on many countries accepted it as a finance qualification. So ACCAs are also known as finance professionals.
Okay. So what about the CMA? Is it in India or UK?
Okay. Now, to put it more clear, I would say when we talk about CA or CMA, or even there is some other course called Company Secretaryship, CS, all these things comes under one umbrella, but with different roles and responsibilities. CA is kind of an all-rounder, I told you. CA handles mainly audits, but he can handle costing, then corporate laws, then taxation, all those things. But when it comes to CMA, their scope is limited to costing alone. Okay, mainly limited to costing alone. Similarly, when it comes to CS or Company Secretaryship, their scope is mainly limited to corporate compliances, company law, company compliances, etc. Okay, now when we take each country, you may be knowing that every country has got its own laws, regulations, right?
Yes.
The taxation law in India will be totally different from the taxation law in UK or US. So a professional, let's say a CA who is in India, has to learn the Indian laws. Similarly, a CA who is in US or UK has to learn their respective laws. And also, a chartered accountant who is in India, when they audit the financial statements in India or the companies in India, his expertise should be different from a chartered accountant who does auditing in UK. Okay, because there will be a lot of differences in the manner in which the financial statements are prepared by the companies and all those things. So every country has their own legislations, their own laws, which will bring out certain conditions on who can be a chartered accountant, who can be a company secretary, who can be a management accountant in their own countries.
Okay.
So like we have CA in India, there are CAs in US, UK, Australia, or for any other country for that matter. So any CA in India is known as Indian CA. Similarly, a CA in UK is known as UK CA. We call it as ACA. CA in US is called as CPA, Certified Public Accountant. Similarly, when it comes to CMA, Indian CMA, earlier they were known as CWS, now they are CMAs, they are known as CMAs. Similarly, you have CMAs in UK, then CMAs in US and such other countries.
Okay.
So every country will have their own chartered accountant, their own management accountant, their own company secretary. That's the main difference.
Okay. Currently, we have a hype for ACCA, right?
Yeah.
So CA or ACCA?
Yeah.
Which one should I prefer, and what are the pros and the cons?
Okay. So again, this is also one of the most common questions now. Many parents ask me. Now, I have already mentioned you, ACCA per se is a degree or a professional qualification which is awarded by an association of finance professionals in UK. Now, when we compare ACCA with CA, a CA in India has a statutory backing. Now, statutory backing means the CA in India enjoys certain powers which the Indian Chartered Accountants Act, it is an act passed by the Indian Parliament. And this act has given certain privileges, certain rights to Indian CA. Now, those rights are available to Indian CA only in India. Similarly, when we talk about CPA in US, the laws in US gives certain rights, certain responsibilities, certain powers to CPAs in US. We call it as attestation powers or attestation functions. Okay, now while these Indian CA or US CA or CPA or UK CAs enjoy this right, ACCA does not have any such statutory backing. It is only a finance qualification. So it is not derived from any statute or any law in UK. It is only a course which is established by an association of professionals, finance professionals in UK. So due to that, there is no statutory backing for ACCA. But let me tell you, many countries accept ACCA qualified accountants as finance professionals. So if your objective is just to become a finance professional, ACCA is also help you. But if your objective is to become an auditor who audits the financial statements in India, or who wants to have the statutory power, then you have to go with the CA of that respective country. Okay, that is one major difference. Now from Indian perspective, if you see, Indian CAs learns everything from Indian context. Like tax means Indian taxes, corporate laws, then business laws, everything from Indian perspective. Even when we come to accounting, even though the accounting is common throughout the world, there are certain accounting standards which are specific to each country. So Indian CA is purely from Indian perspective or Indian context. But when you see ACCA, one of the major limitation is they follow UK taxes, UK laws. So if you are an ACCA who is aspiring to work in India, then you might have to relearn all these Indian taxes, Indian laws, if you really want to work in Indian finance or Indian commerce. So that will be one of the major limitations that ACCA will have. Otherwise, both ACCA and Indian CA can be called as a finance professional. Okay. Now, I think if you are a parent or a student who has to take a choice between Indian CA or ACCA, you will have to make a detailed research on where you want to work after this, what is going to be your expert area, whether you want to work as a mere finance professional, or you want to concentrate on the audit function, or you want to be a tax expert. So those things have to be finalized beforehand before you join for ACCA or Indian CA. Okay.
So a student who is hoping to move to Western countries, I think it is clear from this which they should opt, right?
Even then, that is also a hype which is being created by many medias, that if you do ACCA, you will be able to migrate to UK, you will be able to migrate to other foreign countries. But I will tell you, when you see the real statistics, that may not be so. Because as I already told you, ACCA is a finance profession which is instituted in UK. But when you go to UK, UK has its own brand of CA, which has the statutory powers by a law which is passed in UK, which is totally different from ACCA. Okay, so if you want to work as a chartered accountant in UK, ACCA is not the first choice. You have UKCA,
Okay.
which is given by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales. Okay, it's also a profession. So when you compare with ACCA and UKCA, ACCA will be little below ACA. The first preference will go to UKCA. Similarly, if you want to migrate to Australia, Canada, all these countries has their own chartered accountancy professions. So given a choice, they will always give a priority or a preference to them.
All right.
But if you want to work in a finance segment, having ACCA will be an added advantage over your graduation or post-graduation.
Okay,
But
fine.
if you want to practice or if you want to be in core practice as a chartered accountant, I would prefer, if it is in India, Indian CA, or if it is, let's say, UK or Canada, you have to take their CA itself.
So if you are putting it in other words, ACCA is just an entry level to the finance.
Yes, kind of, because I would say ACCA, if you are a PG student, like you have done your post-graduation in commerce, and you want to migrate to some country or you want to work in a company, having ACCA qualification will be an extra advantage for you.
Okay.
But merely because you are having ACCA, getting a job might be little difficult because you will be competing with the hardcore CAs of that respective countries.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it is impossible, but given the comparison, always the corporate entities will prefer the core CAs of that respective countries.
Okay, fine.